Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte. If it weren't for leap year, today would be 420.
And despite Monty and my preferred penchant for Pinot Noir, we'll only focus on one vice today, and that would be cannabis.
Later in the show, we'll talk with Payton Shubrick from Six Bricks Cannabis right around the corner from us here in Springfield.
Six Bricks is a black, local, and family-owned dispensary, the first of its kind to emerge in the industry. We'll hear about what they've got in store for 420 and the 413, and we'll hear about how they have been assisting people legally with Governor Healey's recent decision to pardon misdemeanor cannabis crimes.
And more 420 madness with the Mary Jane Jones as musical guest for Live Music Friday. They have a 420 soul celebration happening at the Majestic Theater in Easthampton tomorrow. But first...
My father cataloged each and every creature of the invisible world. The pages are in hidden vaults all over Henson.
The Grace family is coming. Arthur Spiderwick's field guide will soon be ours.
Mulgarat's a deceiver, a shapeshifter.
The world would be a better place without humans.
Find the pages. Put Spiderwick's field guide back together. You have to help save everyone.
I'm just a kid.
That's why you can succeed.
The Spiderwick Chronicles is a series of children's fantasy books by Tony DiTerlizzi and Holly Black following the adventures of the Grace children, twins Simon and Jared, and their older sister Mallory, after they move into the Spiderwick estate and discover a world of fairies that they never knew existed. The books were adapted into a film in 2008, but they have now been developed into a television series for Roku. The show debuts today.
The Roku series stars Christian Slater, Joy Bryant, and Lyon Daniels, amongst others, and follows the Grace family as they move from Brooklyn to their ancestral home, the Spiderwick estate in Henson, Michigan. And a world of fae unfolds. We're joined by the creators of the Spiderwick Chronicles, author-illustrator Tony DiTerlizzi, and author Holly Black joins us again on the show. A reminder that Holly and Khalees have a book out called Sermorian, which is still available in bookstores. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Sure.
I'm psyched because I've been immersed in the world of Spiderwick over the last couple weeks or so because I came to your house, Tony, and spent time with your wife, Ann, who's in the studio with us, and Holly, and your husband, Theo, and your kid, and my kid, and watched the first episode. And then we had a big celebration at the Carl last Saturday, like
fun.
A red carpet step and repeat premiere where we all watched it, and the who's who of the children's lit world was there to watch the debut.
And Lyon and his family, the lead flew out.
That was so
amazing.
great.
He was there.
It was so cool.
Got some love. That was awesome.
The Jared Grace from the Roku series, so that's excellent.
No.
Go ahead. No, yes, please.
No.
All right. Well, here's my question. I've now seen the premiere twice.
Oh.
Now, if I go to Roku when I go home today, as I will, and I will immerse myself in Roku City,
Yes.
will I be able to see episode 2? Will I be able to see all of the episodes? Will I be able to binge watch the new Spiderwick Chronicles, or do I have to wait until next week to see episode 2?
Not only will you be able to binge watch it, but Roku City is now Spiderwick City. They reskinned the city.
I can't wait to check
to
it
be
out.
sets from Spiderwick.
And if you don't have a Roku, you can go to Roku.com and watch for free.
Awesome.
That's right. They want your email address, but you don't have to give them money. You just have to create an account. That's the truth.
Who doesn't have a burner email account these days?
Yes, exactly.
Everyone has one.
This is the job for that email account.
I'm excited because I spend an awful lot of time in Roku City, strangely. So, yeah, I'm excited that it's Spiderwick now.
It's a whole different thing moving from TV to movies and the way that you adapt for each medium. What's different in what you were able to do for the TV series as opposed to what you were able to do for the movie when it came out?
Right. I mean, film is a compression. Even with, the fairly short 5-book series that we have, whereas, with the TV show, it was an expansion. You would get to see what every different character is doing. And specifically, we spent a lot more time with the villain Mulgarath. And we got to see his plan, but also his inner conflict.
What does Mulgarath lay at night and wonder? What is he struggling with?
The flavor of the Cavendish banana.
Who does he love?
Mulgarath in the movie was played by Nick Nolte. Mulgarath in the TV show is played by Christian Slater. Tell us who Mulgarath is. Because, in the books, it's a little bit of a spoiler. But in the movie, in the TV show, you find out right away.
who Mulgarath is. Well, it's a
But-
bit of
or
a
what
it's a bit of
Mulgarath
a
is, I guess.
Oh, well, I mean, he's an ogre. Is
Yeah.
that what you're
Yes.
driving at?
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, he's an ogre that Holly and I were not Shrek, but we were inspired by actually the Puss in Boots fairy tale, which is about a cat that outsmarts a very stealthy and cunning ogre who can shapeshift into various shapes, and ultimately Puss defeats this ogre by convincing it to turn into a mouse, and then the cat eats it. And we totally just lifted that for Spiderwick. And so,
But the fun thing about shapeshifting, right, is
Yeah.
that taken out of the context of the fairy tale, it is actually quite a impressive power, and it's
Sure.
something that you can use to really set a lot of people in conflict with one another.
yes. Yeah.
And that's really where
See,
the show
X-Men.
picks up. Yes, X-Men of a classic shape.
But there's a lot of fairies glamoring. I mean, you know this very well, Holly. I mean, that's a big pastime, activity, hobby. I don't know, job. I mean,
All of
fairies.
those
Yes,
things.
fairies love taking on the
Some are
form.
born into it,
Yes.
changelings. But
Yeah,
like,
that's right. Yes, they just shapeshift and then cause mayhem and
why be
chaos.
who you are when you could just not and then cause the same amount of chaos everywhere?
Yeah, shapeshifting is like the scariest power because it could be anybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
You did a lot of research for the books on fairy, on the world of fairy, the history of fairy, and a lot of that makes its way into the books. Is this something that you have always been interested in, that you were both always interested in? Tell us about your history with the love of the world of fairy.
So long ago,
Yeah.
Oh,
I came to Tony's Brooklyn apartment to interview him for a now defunct magazine.
called D8, which
and
your
one of
D&D
the-
fans will know what that is a reference to.
They will not, but they'll know the reference. Yes, they will not want to.
Yes, yes,
they
we
will not know
do.
the magazine.
Thanks.
But one of the first things that we really connected about is that both of our moms had this book called Fairies. It was illustrated by Brian Froud and Alan Lee. Brian Froud, if you're not familiar, did the concept art for Dark Crystal and Labyrinth. Alan Lee did the concept art for Lord of the Rings. Imagine them in a tiny English village in the 70s making this scary, beautiful,
Kind of
amazing
controversial,
book.
right? Wasn't that book controversial because there was like some nudity in it with kids
There
drawings?
was.
I remember
Yes.
like this
Yeah.
book, and I remember
Yeah.
people being like, "That book's controversial."
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great. And
Well,
all
it
it
wasn't
did,
for kids.
no,
Oh, well,
You
there
know?
you go.
right? But
Yeah.
like everything in the 70s, here, kids. Mom's gonna go smoke a pack of cigarettes. You can read this book.
It's fairies. It's clearly for children.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think that I grew up. Mom read a lot of fairy tales. We had the Grimm's fairy tales. We had the Andrew Lang's rainbow fairy books, like the Red Fairy Book, the Blue Fairy Book. Lots of Arthur Rackham art, who was a turn of the century, and also drew really creepy fairies. And so I think that we wanted to try to capture that feeling. And I know you and I both talked that book. We were right at the right age when we read it. I kind of was like, "Is this stuff like real over in England? Like, is there something going on that I'm like not fully aware of?"
Is this why the pilgrims really
Yes, exactly.
Well, there are stories. There's a specific story about somebody leaving Ireland and
Yes, a great one.
coming over, and on the theory that they could finally get away from the boggart that's in their house. And like they get on the cart and they go a distance, and they're like kind of like doing a little roll call where they're like, "Are you here? Are you here? Are you here?" And then the little voice is like, "I'm here." And they
God.
realize there's no getting away.
Oh my. It's like Bugs Bunny. He's like Pismo Beach and all the oysters. Like he just shows up, right?
We're speaking with Holly Black and Tony DiTerlizzi, who are the creators of the Spiderwick Chronicles, which will debut today on Roku in television form. Now, I've read the books a bunch of times. My son, who I mentioned, was at the premiere and also at your house watching the first episode. Loves it and went back to the books. I read them to him when he was like 5 or 6. He's already started rereading the books.
Mission accomplished.
That's what we really like to hear.
How much do you need to know the books to enjoy the TV show? Or if you've never heard of the books until right now and you're listening on the radio, can you just turn it on Roku and still have a great time?
Not only do you need to know the books, but you can't have a borrowed copy.
Okay.
You need your own
need to buy the
exclusive
books.
copy that you bought in a store.
see.
Otherwise, it will make no sense at all.
Yeah. Library, sorry, those versions don't work.
They have entirely different text.
Now, you may have many
purpose.
members of your family who also like to read. They, too, will each
their
need their
own
own
copy.
individual
Right.
copies.
No, you do not need to know anything about. You don't need to know anything going into it.
No.
They've done a good job of laying things out for you.
Yes.
And conversely, if you love the books, you shouldn't go into this thinking this is going to be a page-for-page remake of the books in order, right?
Also true. Yeah. I think, the showrunner, Aaron Colite, was very clear that this was an interpretation of the source material and less an adaptation. I think he wanted to try to make it relevant for audiences today. The books came out 20 years ago, so the world's a little bit of a different place now than it was then. And there are certain conversations that he wanted to have in this show, like especially the one in the forefront being the mental health of teenagers right now. And that's something that was not explored in the books, but something that was very meaningful to both Holly and I.
We just had people on talking about the mental health of teenagers a week or so ago on the show, and especially post-pandemic, it has been really rough. If you look at the books in their original form, you can see that the mental health issues have always been there, but the television show amplifies it puts a finer point on it.
Digs
I guess.
deeper.
Yeah. And that was Aaron, the showrunner's idea to kind of amplify that aspect of it?
Yeah. I mean, again, this show went into production, was it late 2019, Holly? It was like right before the pandemic. So they were working on it through the pandemic. And we had a lot of young writers in the writer's room. They were, probably in their like 20s and 30s. So definitely of another generation that grew with cell phones and social media and all the things that were nascent when we were coming up with these stories. I think in the drawing, I remember one of the illustrations, Helen Grace, the mom, is holding like a flip phone, We're like, all right, here we are.
Those are all the rage again, though,
Yeah.
because I think kids are trying to disassociate from the smartphone as much as they can. Yeah.
Seriously.
Are you allowed to talk about how it got to Roku?
Talk about anything you want.
Okay. So how did it end up on Roku when I do believe I read articles about another place that it was intended to be first?
Yeah, if you get some copies, they're stickered with a place it was intended to be first.
Is it like the mouse that shall not be named? Like, can we not say?
You can say whatever you want, except swears.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's no secret that for any fans of the books that it was at Disney Plus and was greenlit and produced under Disney Plus, but due to cost-cutting measures, they axed a bunch of projects, including this one. I don't know, middle of last year.
Yeah.
When was it? Yeah.
And I think it was a little dark for them.
Yeah.
So I think we found a better home, and we're so excited to wind up on Roku.
They've been very supportive. It's interesting. As a person who, I love watching TV and love these various streaming channels. And, we all flick it on and there's all the menu with all the tiles of what show am I going to watch. And I've seen shows that I love on some of these bigger streamers like Disney and Netflix that I'm like really excited. And I'm like, oh, Ange, my wife or my kid, I'm like, hey, you got to see it. And then I can't find it. I think it's just buried because there's just so much product. And for lack of a better word, there's just so many shows coming out. So the thing that I took comfort in with Roku was like, they don't have as much. We actually could be kind of a bigger fish in a smaller pond. That might actually work to our benefit.
I think it's going to be great. I can't wait to go explore Roku City while I'm streaming Hi-Ya, the all kung fu Roku channel, and or Robert Rodriguez's El Rey TV on Roku. Robert Rodriguez, who worked with Lion Daniels on a bunch of different projects before he made his star turn in the Spiderwick Chronicles, which debuts on Roku TV today. Let's take a little break, and we'll come back and talk more with the creators of the Spiderwick Chronicles, Holly Black and Tony DiTerlizzi.
You're listening to The Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar, homegrown in Hatfield, Massachusetts, and providing energy savings for their customers for over 10 years. Learn more at northeast-solar.com.
We want something more.
I'm an ogre. I want everything more.
Can't trust anyone.
A reckoning is coming.
You must be ready for the coming fight.
Having someone believe in you is the most powerful form of magic there is.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. We're joined by the creators of the Spiderwick Chronicles, Tony DiTerlizzi and Holly Black, local authors / illustrators from here in the 413, whose television version of the Spiderwick Chronicles debuts on Roku today, and it's taken over Roku City.
The last line of that trailer is so you, Holly Black. Like the having someone believe in you is the most powerful magic there is. Like, oh yeah, no, I can tell that's a Holly line through and through. This, in its original form, is solidly a New England fairy story.
Yes, it is.
But in this incarnation, it has moved to the Midwest.
Yes.
Was that their choice or your choice? Like everybody choosing together to pitch this whole thing west instead? Why?
Aaron had, two reasons. The showrunner, Aaron Colite, had just come off a series called Lock and Key for Netflix, which takes place in a Victorian mansion, a dilapidated Victorian mansion in New England. And he said, any chance maybe we could just shake it up a little bit and try to go somewhere else? And when we had this discussion, Holly and I asked ourselves, like, okay, what's the importance of it being in New England? Now, definitely we could sidebar and talk about how Amherst and the area, like where we got references and inspiration as we were working on the books. But also Aaron had, one of the things that came up was this is not a British it draws upon that folklore, but this is very clearly, we want this to be an American fairy tale. And again, bear in mind, this came out in a time, the books came out in the wake of the success of Harry Potter. Even the Lemony Snicket books, though American, have that very distinct British school feeling to them. So Aaron kind of posed to us, hey, what if we move it like to the Midwest then? Let's put it in a state that's firmly, divided, politically, that has haves and have-nots financially, that is very diverse racially, and we thought yes, and he named it after our hero and inspiration, Jim Henson.
So he named it. It wasn't your decision to call the new town Henson.
No,
I love
that. But we dedicated the big fantastic field guide to Jim Henson, so I suspect that's probably where he got the idea.
Yeah. I'm such a big, huge Jim Henson fan, too. And then, the Henson world morphs into, you're wearing a Skywalker Ranch shirt right now. And
yeah, I am.
You, Tony, got to write a book version of Star Wars. And
I did. I know. That was crazy.
Mark Hamill, who's Luke Skywalker, narrates the audiobook version of Spiderwick Chronicles.
And does an amazing job.
He's such a great voice actor.
Right?
He is
he's
so
such a great
amazing.
actor, but also such a great voice actor.
Totally.
Yeah.
And he's a big fan of the TV show, as we are hearing so far.
Yes.
Yeah. That's great. And the TV show is on Roku as of right now. The place in Michigan, there are places in Michigan that really have a penchant for fairies, so it also made perfect sense. And some of that works its way a little bit into the show, right?
Right, the fairy doors.
Yeah.
Right, there's really a town that really has tons of fairy doors all over it, and
Ann Arbor, I think it's Ann Arbor has them. We saw it on book tour one year.
Yeah, we went around and actually we're like, whoa.
Wait, there's fairy door? Like where? Like, and you're looking and you'll be walking down a street, like a busy city block, and then there's this little tiny door, hot glued to the side of a building. And
nonsense, they open.
Into another room.
And they're in the show. I mean, you see these little fairy doors. It's really cool.
It's very, very cool.
It's convenient for them to get around.
Totally.
They need that.
Mulgareth, the ogre, has been cast in this is Christian Slater. Whose idea was it to say, like, maybe Christian Slater could be perfect for the arch villain of the Spiderwick TV show?
Not us. Boy, but what a get. Holy cow. I mean, growing up with Gleaming the Cube and the legend of Billie Jean and Heathers and all that right before he becomes Christian Slater. Like, I mean, it's amazing.
I had never considered Hot Mulgrath before, but I am open to it.
He's a shapeshifter after all.
No one has.
Wait, what other forms could he take if he was here besides Christian Slater, Holly?
He could take my form and do this whole interview for me.
We did try to get Christian Slater on today, but he was not available, so that's too bad. But
no, we can just talk about how much he loves Mark Hamill, and that'll be almost the same.
Yeah, and how much we love Christian Slater.
Sorry, Monty, busy. I can't make it. Next time.
And I don't want to say he's the main star because there's a trio of stars as the Grace Children, but Lion Daniels was here in Amherst at the Eric Carle Museum with us last week, and he had previously worked with Christian Slater on another project. Talk about the casting of the Grace children, Mallory and Jared and Simon.
So in the movie, one of the things about having twins, right, is that it's really, really hard to cast twins. And so we had one actor playing both twins.
Freddie Highmore, right?
Yeah, Freddie Highmore.
Yeah.
And here, I think for a lot of reasons, there was a decision that we were going to have two different actors. And so then we looked at a lot of twins and, identical twins at first, and then fraternal twins, and then realized, okay, actually, just casting two people who are great as twins is going to be the right move.
Yeah. It felt like I remember we were seeing the auditions and stuff. When you get twins, you get one that was really talented, and the other one's like, I can be like the stand-in. It just there was one that would be super into it, and the other one less so. And so I think they started to realize the limitations, and also the age, right? I mean, because I think a lot of fans have asked, why are they older? Why aren't they twins? We've addressed the twins. And the age thing a shooting schedule, it is a lot of hours. And the younger you are, the less hours you can shoot in a day. And bear in mind, even with Lion and Noah, they had school on top of this. So they would shoot, and in between takes, while they were setting up the next shot, they would run to a classroom and go learn, algebra or whatever they've got to do in between. So it's a really taxing on a young actor to be able to balance all these things on a production.
We've already talked about the showrunner moving the show west and making your ogre hot. But what are some other things that they as producer brought to the production that were really inspirational or kind of aha for you? Oh, it could work this way. We didn't think about it being this way before.
That's a good question.
Yeah, it's such a good question that now I'm like, wait, what is, I'm kind of going through the actual show to sort of think about things that are.
Well, look, the different complexion of the characters, that was really important to Holly and I. And we were thinking about that even as we were finishing the first 5 books. When we went to start the sequel, we were like, hey, let's have different people get to have cool adventures like this. So that was something that was incredibly important to us when this show went into production.
Well, it's interesting too, as a person who has a black son and something that the writer's room and that the actors could bring is a real authenticity to the story in a way that, I never could have. And so there's something that feels really important and special to me that's really interesting to have in a project that is also sort of mine.
I also love the inclusion of there's new magical elements that get brought into the show that aren't necessarily in the book form, including Mulgareth's right-hand person.
A fetch.
A fetch. Tell us what a fetch is.
Calliope, the fetch.
Yeah. So, okay, if you were to be hanging out and you were to see, for instance, yourself walk by or a dear friend who shouldn't be there. I'm so sorry.
Khalees is lost it now. So almost spatook.
She swallowed.
Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I knew better.
All right, so you're hanging out. You see your friend walk by who shouldn't be there. You see yourself walk by.
Do you mean like when director Tony Dunn, who looks just like me, walks by? And I think
absolutely. That's a harbinger of doom, my friend.
Yes. Yes. Tony Dunn is now a harbinger of doom.
I knew it. Tony Doom.
And that's what a fetch is. It is a creature that looks like someone who is about to die.
Yeah. It's Irish, I think, in its original Irish or Scottish Wales. We were the truth is there were limitations on budgetary limitations where they just were like, we cannot do 9 million special effects creatures in this show. We just don't have the budget for it. So can you think of some fairy types that could be played by a human that look kind of human, and that also allow us to expand the cast out? So we kind of all put on our thinking caps and came up with the fetch. And the story that you or me, I don't remember, had found was there's these 2 brothers. This is at the turn of the century. One of them's living in London. The other one's living in America. The one in London is at the park, let's say Kensington Park, with his children, and looks up for a brief moment and sees his brother walk by. When he gets back to his house, there's a telegram that his brother had passed because he's living in America. So we thought this would be a really cool. What does that mean? Like what? Who am I? I'm death.
20 years on, do you think that there are more adventures that you'd like to do in the Spiderwick universe?
That's a really interesting question. Several months ago, Tony sent me some sketches of some things and some creatures.
Maybe some little this, little
yeah,
that.
he was just like, I don't know what, no
maybe.
real comment to go with it. Here's
Just
some
kind of look and
sketches.
see.
If you're
And
not
I,
busy on Saturday, we can hang out and bang out a story. I don't know.
And I've stuck them into my planner where I pull them out every now and again and take a look at them.
And go, oh God, Tony wants more books. All right, I gotta get back to Cruel Prince. Okay. No, I think we always left it open that we could tell more stories, and I think it's just a matter of doing it and having fun. We had so much fun working on these books.
We did, and it's fun to be back together doing this stuff too, because it is a reminder of how much fun it is.
And we had no idea it was going to be as successful as it was. Angela knew, but we did not know.
Angela
we had
knows
no
everything.
idea,
Angela's
honestly.
Tony's wife, who's sitting in the studio.
Nodding her head vigorously,
Nodding,
going,
yeah,
yes.
she's like, that's
yes,
right.
That's right. I did know.
And it's so great that they are back and alive again in this new Roku television show. What was it like walking into the world of Spiderwick again on set? Like to see it come to life
That
again.
is always such a
so
strange,
incredible.
such a incredible and strange feeling. You see, any movie set, there's hundreds of people doing various jobs that are, working on the set, and you walk into, the Spiderwick estate, and which is the house that the most of the adventures take place in, and to see the hours of work and the artisans that have spent time designing wallpaper with fairies in it, and then distressing the wallpaper to make it look centuries old, and they put like fiberglass giant mushrooms growing up into the ceiling. It's just mind-boggling.
Yeah, Leon was talking about how when he was walking around the sets, like he could interact with them in ways that aren't in the script.
Yeah.
Like you can open a drawer and in that drawer are your clothes. Like, but there's no scene in which you
Immersive.
ever open that drawer, and that's
awesome.
so interesting and so weird.
I love
Yeah.
it. It's like immersive theater when you get
Totally
to run
immersive.
around a theater and open all the things.
Thanks.
I love
Yes.
it. Yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
Yes.
You can't go and see the screening of the TV show because that's sold out. But tomorrow night, you can go get your book signed by Tony and Holly at the Jones Library in Amherst at 8 p.m. That's correct?
That is correct.
Fantastic. So
Come
break
see us.
out your books or go buy new ones, and then you can get them signed. And you'll have to take them home to watch on Roku, but you totally can starting tonight. So
Yeah, and maybe you'll watch the first episode on Roku, and then your 10-year-old will want to devour all the books all over again, rapid fire, like my 10-year-old Pax has been
That's
doing.
a dream.
Yeah, and we can't wait to watch the whole series as a family. It's a little bit scarier than the books if you read them. It's a little bit darker, so just keep that in mind. But it's
so is
still
the world, so it's fine.
The world is much darker.
You mean just the world in general?
Yes.
Or yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Tony DiTerlizzi and Holly Black, the creators of the Spiderwick Chronicles, local hero authors from our area. I can't wait to watch this show, and I can't wait to go live in Spiderwick version of Roku City tonight when I go home and relax
Spider
on my
Roku.
couch.
Sounds like a superhero. Thank you so much for coming on the show. This is going to be awesome.
For having us.
Thank
It's
you.
always a pleasure.
Coming up, Payton Shubrick from Six Bricks Cannabis, the first of its kind, black, local, and family-owned dispensary, hosting 420 and the 413 tomorrow.
And later, Live Music Friday with the Mary Jane Jones hosting a 420 soul party at the Marigold in Easthampton.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. Tomorrow is 420, and fans of cannabis will celebrate in whatever way they see fit.
Joining us to talk about 420 and the 413 is CEO and founder of Six Bricks Cannabis in Springfield, right around the corner from NEPM Studios, Payton Shubrick. Thank you so much for joining us again.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you all so much for having me. Excited to be here.
What's changed in the past year since we last had a chance to talk to you about the cannabis landscape?
How much time do we have?
I mean,
honestly,
plenty.
that's fair. That's fair and that's fast.
So much has changed. I mean, we could start at the top. You have Governor Moore Healey, who came through with sweeping pardons for giving possession of marijuana convictions. That does not include, though, distribution, trafficking, or driving under the influence. And I think it's really opened the door to a larger conversation around descheduling or rescheduling cannabis, which for me as a cannabis business owner would be lovely. The tax burdens continue to harm smaller players in terms of how do you just stay afloat financially when you're paying a ridiculous amount of taxes each month. But then we're also seeing larger multi-state operators that continue to bring the price down. And again, it definitely plays a role in smaller players like Six Bricks having to get really creative as we think about ways to survive. So it's forever a different type of industry just because you have to roll with the punches and be comfortable with what was last week not being what it is this week.
And the federal laws have not really officially changed yet. So like all the business things you'll have to wrestle with selling cannabis legally in Massachusetts, like can you use a credit card still or no?
No.
Not allowed to because of federally,
Right.
You're not allowed to pay with a credit card.
Correct.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, since last time I was here, MasterCard came out with a very aggressive position. So we actually see in store sometimes with folks using a debit card that's sponsored by MasterCard, those transactions not going through.
Oh.
I talked to so many business owners across the state that used a MasterCard for their Google ads or for, some second or third ancillary service. And many of those transactions were declined all overnight, right? So it was kind of the mad dash of, I still need my Google ads, but I got to swap out the credit card. And all right, who on the team's willing to do that? So again, it's the reality that things continue to change for us, and it's figuring it out one step at a time.
Are digital payments possible, or is it like blanket across the board has to be cash or
Cash or debit card.
Right.
That is
Or
all.
not MasterCard debit card.
Or
Yeah,
not
not
MasterCard.
MasterCard.
So I was just wondering if like options like Venmo that directly connect to bank accounts or things that are digital but direct in that way were possible, but they seem to still not have decided on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the tricky part is any institution that's federally insured typically is not going to be cannabis friendly, right? And that's because cannabis is federally illegal. So it creates a dynamic where there's still a lot of uncertainty. I mean, don't try to be a cannabis business owner and look for a mortgage, right? Because then you got to wonder if you're going to actually be underwritten because you have an equity position in a business that's federally illegal. So again, there's so many nuances that people don't consider, especially once you're in industry. It's figuring it out one step at a time.
We're speaking with Payton Shubrick, who's the CEO and founder of Six Bricks Cannabis, right around the corner from us in Springfield. Family-owned, black-owned, from a family that you told us last year when you came on the show on 420 that you were a teetotaling family. It was not like you were big cannabis users. You weren't even drinkers, really, right?
No, it was a dry household.
Yeah.
So it is great to see my parents actively have conversation with folks in the neighborhood, like sleep, stress, anxiety, top 3 uses in the store. Come on by, Six Bricks. Got that hip replaced. I got a gummy for you, right? And so we've come
Are
a
you
long
listening,
way.
my mother? I tried to have this conversation with you over the weekend.
Also, that is adorable.
Yeah, most certainly. And it's funny, too, because at the age that I'm in, I have many of my friends from high school and college that are having children, and I'm having conversations with my parents about weed. I mean, to each his own. It's great. I love it.
The Biden administration has offered some sort of federal pardon. The Moore Healey administration has offered, as you mentioned, pardons. And you, as Six Bricks, are helping run these expungement clinics to help navigate that legal field if
Or
you have been charged.
streamline it for people who might be overwhelmed by the process.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that and how that's been going.
Absolutely. So last year we hosted our first expungement clinic. This year we actually were able to sponsor one that was hosted by the Justice Department at Western New England University. And for us, it's really important to acknowledge, I mean, a lot gets lost in 420. Yes, it's a celebration. It's a high holiday. But also for some, it's acknowledging the freedom that is currently being possessed that wasn't many years ago. I mean, when I graduated high school in 2011, there was no conversations about cannabis that were so open and transparent as they are now. So in many respects, for us at Six Bricks, it's acknowledging that, yes, 420 can be a great holiday where folks folks find the lowest prices and stock up and have a great time. But we also can't forget the reality that cannabis has a checkered history and it impacted communities like Springfield. And so it is important for us as a company to do our part to ensure that folks that were on the less than ideal end of having a conviction now have opportunities to have a brighter future, whether that's in cannabis or simply to get something checked off the box from their past. So we do what we can.
The disparities have been great racially, historically, where the amount of people that would go to jail for possession of small amounts of marijuana who were black versus who were white was exponentially higher. You are, I think, one of, let's see, I had
Why
that.
are we saying was?
Well, I mean, the arrests for possession are not happening at the same rate. So
Correct.
those things have changed.
Right.
Nevertheless, there are, according to a Pop Sugar article that you were quoted in, there are 400-ish dispensaries in the state. Only about 20 of those are black-owned, and the average nationwide of black-owned cannabis dispensaries is 1.7%. So there were people that were going to jail and getting punished for using cannabis, and now the preponderance of people who are making money off cannabis are white. You're trying to change that narrative. You're hiring people from the community, from Springfield. Are you seeing an interest in people from the community, especially BIPOC people, saying, I want to go and be like Payton Shubrick and be the CEO of my own cannabis company to help steer that percentage into a little bit more towards equity?
Yeah, tall order, to say the least. I mean, the reality of the situation is the way that cannabis was legalized in Massachusetts and many other states, the barrier to entry is extremely high. I mean, you're talking about at least $1 million, and that's just to get started and if nothing goes wrong. And so for me, yes, Six Bricks is an example. I mean, the name itself is a play on the last name Shubrick, with 6 people in my immediate family, and most folks helping to support the business, with the exception of my 15-year-old brother, which I have to say on the radio as a disclaimer, right?
Okay. Right.
Has to be over the age of
If you
21.
owned a liquor store, it would be the same thing. And
Exactly.
people wouldn't be freaking out about it.
Exactly.
Yes.
But what I do appreciate about what we've created at Six Bricks is we are helping people who want to have a career in cannabis explore what that looks like. I mean, if we look at the rollout of legalization, you do have people of color that work in cannabis, but unfortunately, many of the jobs have been reserved as the dispensary agent or the greeter or inventory specialist, right? It doesn't allow you to actually break through to a C-suite level role that then creates a salaried position where you can now have a career trajectory. And so what I can appreciate about what we're doing is we're giving people that start to say, if you want to be the head of operations for a larger entity, if you want to be the head of marketing, get in at the ground floor and understand what it looks like. And because we're a smaller entity, it's almost a rotation of sorts, right? You want to learn about marketing? All right, well, you shadow this person for the day and you do this and you do that. So it's been great to see what we've accomplished. And I think the fact that people know Six Bricks exist, it gives them hope in terms of what they're looking at, because it's hard to do something you've never seen. I mean, my biggest struggle was acknowledging I wanted to be a woman who was in cannabis as a CEO. There weren't many I could have a conversation with, right? I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. So I do my best to be accessible to the community and having conversations with folks to say, if I can do it, you can do it. Now, also with the disclaimer, it's not going to be easy, and you have to be what I would refer to as gentle pressure relentlessly applied. And you'll get to the other side.
I love that.
That's beautiful. I wish there were more conversations with smaller providers just in general, because there's, as you mentioned, like larger entities coming into the state and starting up businesses that, in the face of them, seems like, okay, you're getting your stuff locally, you're getting your stuff here, but in reality, like, that money's not staying here. It's not helping the cannabis community here to grow or become better. To that end, what do you have in store for the local community for 420?
Oh, so many things. I'm truly excited. So for us, we actually start 420 celebration on April 13th because it's 420 in the 413. So
Nice.
We've been running promos all week, really providing exciting opportunities for our customers to learn more about our brands. I mean, let's be clear, we're an independent retailer, so we do not produce our own product. but instead we have strategic partnerships with different groups. So the most exciting part for me is each day of this past week, with us wrapping up tomorrow, is we've had a different spotlight on the various brands that really allow our customers to understand what are the best products for me. I mean, that's our vision. At the end of the day, there's nothing worse than spending money on something and it not working. And I'm not talking just about cannabis. I mean, if you looked at my drawers, so many skincare items, they just simply don't work, right? It's frustrating.
Hair care.
Like, it's just like not as advertised. And it's harder for cannabis companies because the regulations don't allow you to return product in the same way that you would return another item if it didn't do what you intended. So this week we've spotlit different businesses like Garden Remedies and Rove and Treeworks and Fernway and so many other groups. Tomorrow we'll be wrapping it up with a large celebration with both Aruna and Fernway, a food truck on site, plenty of raffles for folks to get involved with. But again, the opportunity to understand, if you've never explored a tincture, right, we'll come in store and learn what that is and whether or not it's a preferred consumption method for you. Because the days of smoking being the only way to consume are long gone. There's so many different options, and celebrations like 420 allow us to acknowledge the checkered history, but then also be grateful for the product innovation and the ways in which we can help our customers explore that journey now.
In your partners, is to get back to previous points, are you looking for folks to partner with that are from marginalized communities to try and like pay it forward or like create better community for us in cannabis?
Oh, absolutely. A great example would be last month for us. We partnered with Coast Cannabis. That's a woman-owned brand. Shout out to Coast Cannabis. And $1 of all of their sales actually went to the Women's Fund of Western Massachusetts, right? And so we oftentimes will partner with brands and say, this is important to us. This is what's happening in our community. How do you feel about partnering in a way that gives back? And so what many people don't realize is, yes, there are so many dispensaries out there, but paying attention to, is that community actually giving back to the community in a real way? Are they employing people from the community? Are they doing things that you would want done? That becomes important when you're going to purchase something from them, because at the end of the day, you're helping them grow in some capacity, and sometimes that growth is seen back here at home, and sometimes it's seen in another state, and that's the hard part about this industry.
We're speaking with Payton Shubrick, who is the CEO and founder of Six Bricks Cannabis in Springfield. Tomorrow is 420, which is, because of the Grateful Dead, I hate to admit, the national celebration of cannabis culture, and there will be a cannabis concert tomorrow. We'll hear from somebody who will be playing a cannabis-themed concert from the Mary Jane Jones in Easthampton. But I want to ask you, can we play act a little bit? Like if I come in to Six Bricks and I say, here's what I'm looking for, and you tell me what you think I need?
Oh, sure. Let's go for
Can
it.
I play act as my mom, too?
Okay, yeah, I like that.
Maybe we'll do that after the break.
All right.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
I'd rather be smoking weed whenever we breathe.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413.
That is the music of the Mary Jane Jones, and we'll hear a little bit about that from Mandy Pacious from the Mary Jane Jones in just a little bit. They're doing a 420 Soul celebration at the Majestic in Easthampton.
Alongside Brown Bones, who will be opening for them.
Oh, the Marigold, not
Marigold,
the Majestic.
yeah,
Yes, sorry
yeah.
about that. Thank you. I should remember it's a flower,
Yes.
and it's a 420 celebration, so
Yes.
that makes perfect sense.
Yes.
And we're also with CEO of Six Bricks, Payton Shubrick, and I wanted to play act. Because we don't have that much time, I'm going to play act as only my mom. Because every time not every time, but I'm sure you could help me with this too. Anytime I consume any cannabis, I see how the universe fits together and think I'm about to die. So hopefully you have a remedy for that at one point. But let's say I am a 70-year-old who has had many of my joints replaced, but grew up believing that marijuana was of the devil. My hips hurt and I can barely walk. And my hips hurt and I can barely walk. What should I come to Six Bricks and get?
Well, thank you so much for coming into Six
My
Bricks.
pleasure.
And
I've never been in a pot shop before.
Well, it's lovely to have you here. What is your preferred consumption method? Would you like to try some edibles, perhaps?
What's
or
an
a
edible?
beverage? An edible is going to be like a gummy. It's saltwater taffy potentially, or
Too
more
chewy.
Too chewy. Okay. How about we go for a beverage type option?
Oh, I love beverages.
Okay.
Is there any alcohol in them? Because I only drink wine coolers.
We could get you something that mimics a wine cooler if that's what you're comfortable with.
Okay.
That sound good?
That sounds great.
Okay, lovely. Any preferred flavors or allergies I should know about?
None.
Okay, lovely. How about we get you started with a beverage that mimics an orange soda or ginger ale to start?
That sounds delightful.
Lovely. If we want to kick it up a little, we can add a tincture in there. It's just 2 little droplets for the pain relief with a little CBD, considering the joint replacements we've had.
You're replacing my joint with a beverage.
Yes.
Oh, that different joints. You
Different
mean my
joints,
hips and
different
my
joints.
knees. I see.
Yes.
Am I going to see how everything in the universe fits together and think I've died?
No, you will not. You will feel pretty good at the end of the day. And if you don't, you could come back and see me and ask for me personally.
Oh, Payton Shubrick, I'm so glad to have met you here at Six Bricks in my mind. At the Marigold Theater tomorrow night, there will be more mayhem for 420 with Mary Jane Jones.
Of which we have one member, but your band is giant. There's a lot of people in it usually.
There's
and
9 of us.
That's the same amount as in Soul Magnets. Like, high five.
And lots of horns.
Lots of horns. Yeah, 4 horns.
Yes.
Is the Mary Jane Jones name in homage to the Mary Jane that we have been discussing?
Yeah, actually, it's a throwback to 2008, before the legalization in our lovely state. It was the middle of summer. I was with some of my girlfriends. Allie McGurk is another singer out of the Burlington area now. And everybody's coming over, and nobody had any weed. And so we spent the whole day trying to find weed. And like it used to be in the summer at UMass, you couldn't find anything anywhere. It was just this barren wasteland for finding cannabis. And so I wrote a song called The Mary Jane Jones, which I think you've heard, and named the band after it. We didn't play the song for years after I named the band.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was a big mystery.
Yeah.
That seems silly. Bring that in.
It's a lot to teach so many people brand new music and have them come up with
Has it always had a giant horn section?
No, like we started as a quartet like in 2011, and it was a rhythm section and me, and I'm the only original founding member of the band, but after a couple of years of playing with Dan Thomas, who came in later as a guitar player, he also composed and studied composition at UMass. So he started writing horn parts for the songs that we were doing and called in our friends who are the actual horn section we still use today. And and so we're a band.
Very
We're
solid.
doing that thing.
They're
Solid
a really
horn
fun
section.
band.
And we just brought in Bo Sasser on keys now.
He's
too.
excellent.
So he'll be
Cool.
at the show tomorrow. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And you're also playing with Brown Bones. And Andrew Moon Bain is the owner of Ah Moments Artisan Cannabis Chocolate.
Yeah, another family-owned, black-owned cannabis business. Yeah, and he'll be having a table at our event tomorrow.
Even
And we
better.
carry them in store.
Oh, we didn't know that and beforehand, but I was just going to say, Peyton, maybe we should guys get to meet, but already
they
one
are-
step ahead of us.
They already know each other. It's
Yeah,
totally fine.
we source all across the state. We do our due diligence, as they say.
Would somebody want to take an chocolate if, let's say, they've had a hip replacement?
Absolutely. We have a lot to discuss after the segment, my friend. We really do.
This is one of the many reasons why I keep trying to get my partner to go and visit y'all and have a good time and get something that will work for them a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Please know that at Six Bricks, we really describe ourselves as more of a cannabis experience than a transaction. And I know that's hard for a lot of people because it's overwhelming. You go in there and there's like 50 plus brands, 800 things on the menu. We really train our staff to have that conversation. How are you looking to feel and what makes most sense and go from there. So for anybody who's a little cannabis curious but hasn't ventured in yet, Six Bricks would be a great first stop for you.
you.
Are these some of the things that you're going to be exploring at your experience tomorrow night at Marigold Theater?
Yeah. Outside of Moments, we also have TreeWorks, who's another cannabis company that's going to be having some wares there. So, yeah, we're really excited about it. And the other half of Brown Bones is Cinnamon Blair. I'm sure you're familiar with Cinnamon.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So she and
bass
Moon
player.
do this together. She's fantastic. Yeah. So I'm really excited.
A great way to celebrate 420 in the 413. You could start in Springfield and make your way to Easthampton to the Marigold. Why don't we do our outro, and then you want to a cappella live music Friday us out there, Mandy?
I'm going to do it.
All right. So next week on the Fabulous 413, we get to really put the Mr. Rogers in the 413 when we take a tour of the Smurf and see how the real recycling gets done for Earth Day.
Smurf is the Springfield Municipal Recycling Facility. We get a lesson in the history of salsa, a double dose of poetry, a whole bunch of fun things. Mandy Pacious, take us away.
Ooh. Oh, Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes-Benz? My friends are all dry Porsches. I must make amends. Worked hard all my lifetime. No help from my friends. Oh, Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes-Benz? Oh, Lord, won't you buy me a color TV? Dialing $4 is trying to find me. I'll wait for delivery each day until 3. Oh, Lord, won't you buy me a color TV? Everybody, oh, Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes-Benz? I'm counting on you, Lord. I must make amends. Worked hard all my lifetime. No help from my friends. Oh, Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes-Benz? That's it. Woo!
That was great. Thanks for play acting. Hopefully my mother wasn't actually listening. Or else
That was ridiculous.
She's really gonna be pissed.
That was ridiculous.
I was like, oh, wow, it's been a while since I've been a bartender, but here we go.